Hey everyone, welcome to Zuli Explores It All. Today I'm at the beautiful Red Rock Canyon and this video is going to be about outdoor etiquette. Now, I know that for me, one of the biggest barriers to doing something is just not knowing what the right thing to do is or just what the rules are. I'm very much a rule follower. So in this video, I'm going to share with you all the little pieces of etiquette that I find useful when I go hiking. The first thing I want to talk about is preserving our natural resources so that you and others can continue to enjoy them for as long as possible. This means any trash that you bring in, you take back out with you. Many trailheads have trash cans in the parking lots. Use them. Leaving trash on the trails has so many consequences. Just don't do it. Bring trash bags, keep a pocket in your backpack that's just for trash. Avoid bringing any trash with you to begin with. That works too. Whatever the way that you choose to do it, just make sure that you're not leaving trash on the trails. This point dovetails into a related point, which is don't leave poop bags on the trail. Certain hikers have the bad habit of leaving filled, closed poop bags on the sides of the trail with the intention to pick them back up on the way out. But guess what? Many people never pick them back up. And they think, oh, well, no big deal. But it is a big deal because over time, the number of bags adds up and pollutes the environment. Then the only way for the bags to be gone is for a ranger or some volunteer to waste their time picking up poop bags on the side of the trail and putting them in the actual trash where they belong. Don't be that person. It's very selfish and it creates unnecessary work for volunteers that could be doing much more important stuff. Additionally, don't just bury your dog's poop or leave it on the trail without bagging it. Ecosystems are very fragile, and the bacteria from your dog's poop could seriously disrupt the ecosystem where you're hiking. This also goes for human poop. Okay, now that I've talked at length about poop, I can move on to my next preservation point, which is do not ride on or deface rocks and trees. I feel like this should be self-evident. No one should really have to tell anyone this, but apparently it needs to be said. So many times I'm out on the trails and see giant graffiti or carvings on rocks and trees. This is terrible, thoughtless, and selfish. It also costs a lot of money to clean it up. State and national parks are already struggling for funding. Don't make them waste it on cleaning up something that can just be avoided by not doing it. Do not do this. Take a picture or a video of yourself. If you want the memory to last forever, it'll last a lot longer if you have it than if you've just graffitied something in a national park for your own feelings, I guess. I honestly don't get why people do this, but it's a really common problem and it creates so many issues for both the environment and the people who have to go and clean it up. A related point, don't pick wild plants or flowers. You never know what you could be affecting or destroying. Unless you're with a park ranger or some other very knowledgeable person that tells you it's okay to do this, don't pick or remove any foliage. Next point, if you see wild animals, do not feed them. Okay, guys. This is a hard one for me because I love a cute wild animal, especially soft, little small ones like chipmunks or squirrels or things like that. But as much as it pains me to admit it, humans need to keep away. We can't condition wild animals to go close to humans for food. Aside from taking away their ability to survive on their own by semi-domesticating them, we also put them in danger because not all humans are going to treat them well. We don't want animals to be going close to civilization because that makes them more vulnerable to poachers, to hunters, even to cars. If you are telling an animal that it's okay to get close to civilization, then they will get closer to roads and potentially get run over or even cause car accidents that could hurt people. This is also the reason why, one of the reasons at least, why things like mountain lions and bears are coming closer and closer to actual homes and suburbs and backyards, because people leave trash out, they start learning that they can find food there, and they start leaving their natural habitats and going into people's backyards. We don't want that to happen. This is another reason why we want to preserve their environments, because the more that they can't find food in their natural habitats, they will go closer to human beings in order to find food there. And we really don't want that. Natural resources need to be protected if we want to continue enjoying them. If you're interested in learning more about how you can help, I'll leave some links down in the description below. Okay, I want to move on from trash and graffiti, and my next point is about local leash laws. At my local hiking spots like Red Rock Canyon and Mount Charleston, you are required to have your dog on a leash at all times. Leashing your dog is beneficial for many reasons. I'm going to list a couple of them, but I'm sure there are way more. 1, it prevents them from running off after wildlife or other dogs or people. 2, you never know when someone else on the trail will be afraid of dogs or have a leash dog that is reactive to off-leash dogs. And 3, it keeps your dog safe from getting lost or potentially injuring themselves on cliffs or rocks. Imagine if you let your dog off the leash here where we are now. There are so many places where they could get hurt, and you really want to avoid that. I know some of you are watching this and thinking, well, my dog is well trained, he doesn't need a leash. And that may be true, but the fact is that owners often overestimate the training and obedience of their dogs. It's better to be safe than sorry. Follow your local leash laws. Let's move on now to some basic hiking etiquette. These are easy and self-explanatory, so I won't go on too much about them, but I do want to go over them quickly. Number 1, uphill hikers have the right of way. If you're descending and see someone coming in the other direction, move to the side so they can pass. Sometimes this doesn't matter because the trail is wide enough for both of you to go through at the same time. But if the trail is narrow, the uphill hiker always has the right of way. Number 2, stay on the trail. This point kind of falls into the preserve the environment point that I started with, but there are many good reasons to stay on the trail. The main one is that you don't want to accidentally stomp on wildlife in the area. Trails are there for a reason. If you must go off the trail, just be extremely careful about where you step. And I know that you're thinking right now, well, Zuli, you're off the trail right now, but the truth is I'm not. The trail is right behind me. These are just rocks where people take pictures. And that's why I have to stop every 5 seconds in order to let people pass so that I can continue talking to the camera. So I'm very much on the side of the trail right now instead of deep in the wilderness. And I also chose this particular trail because I knew that these rock formations were here. If you want to do something like take pictures or take video, it's very important to kind of scout out your locations ahead of time so you know that you're not going somewhere where you really should not be. Number 3, if you're in a group, walk in a straight line, one behind the other. I've already said this a bunch of times, but trails are often narrow, and you are not the only people on them. Be courteous to others by not taking up the entire width of the trail. People should be able to pass by you comfortably if they need to, whether that means because the trail is wide enough that 2 lanes can happen, or because one group can move completely to the side while another group passes by. Basically, the rule is you walk on the right and pass on the left, just like if you are on the road. Number 4, if you need to listen to music, don't do so on speaker. It disturbs the wildlife and other hikers. I talked a little bit about this in my previous video, but if you must listen to music, try to use headphones on low, or better yet, get the bone conduction headphones that I've been talking about, that I rave about, and those will provide you maximum safety. Number 5, if there is a sign in, sign out sheet for your trail, make sure that you use it. It's there for your safety, and many times it helps record usage so that that park or trail could get the funding they need to keep it up. It's an easy way to help support your local trails and parks. And if something bad were to happen and you got lost or you got injured, your name on the sign-in sheet without having your name on the sign-out sheet will tell the park rangers that something happened or that something potentially could have happened at that trail. Okay, number 6. I think it's number 6. I've lost count at this point. I want to talk about trail volume. So I know that we talked about music on the trail. There's someone screaming behind me, which is why it's so perfect that this is my next point. You don't need to scream. No one's around. You're out in the open. If you need to project, that means you're screaming at that point. You can whisper and people will hear you. Right now, I'm not talking that loud and you can still hear me. Now that's because I have a mic here, but the person who is doing my video right now can hear me just fine and I'm not screaming and you can't hear me all the way back there. So I just want you to be cognizant of your volume, because just like music can be disturbing, it's also extremely disturbing to wildlife and other hikers if you're screaming for no particular reason. I want to pivot now to fire safety. Climate change has severely affected natural areas all over the world. If you have watched any news over the past few months, you've heard about how most of the West Coast is on fire, to the point where there have been forest fires and wildfires in Vegas, and most of Vegas is rocks. So it is extremely important that you know fire safety. Places where wildfires were common and necessary are now extremely vulnerable to vast, devastating wildfires that rage uncontrolled and destroy far more than they ever have in the past. Now, wildfires are necessary. In nature, they have been happening for thousands of years, to the point where many seeds actually need fire in order to sprout. So it's not necessarily that wildfires are fully bad, it's that now we're at a point where they're not controlled, they're not small, they're huge, and they spill out into people's homes, into suburbs, into vulnerable areas where they never were meant to go. So you should never, ever have a fire or make a fire outside of designated areas and campsites. You should not do things like set fireworks in forested areas. Be aware of drought conditions, because that also makes things basically a huge tinderbox. And you need to know fire restrictions and campfire rules wherever you are. It doesn't matter. Even here, I wouldn't be comfortable making a fire even though most of what's surrounding me is rocks, because personally, I don't know the rules or what's happening right now. A lot of times when you're driving into a state park or into an area where you're potentially camping, there will be a sign, I'll have a picture of it, there will be a sign that tells you the fire danger at that particular spot on that particular day. Please make sure that you're paying attention to them and respecting them. Setting unsanctioned fires could literally kill you. And if your fire gets out of control and you get caught in a wildfire, it will be extremely difficult to save you. Do your research before making any fires while you're camping. I truly cannot stress this enough, because if we do want to be able to enjoy these natural resources for longer, we have to make sure that we're not setting them on fire and destroying them forever. Did I just get emotional? I think I did. Okay, I'm going to stop myself there, because those are all the basic pieces of etiquette. If we're going to go over them quickly: preserve nature, pick up your dog poop bags, please, leash your dogs, Know the rules for leashing. So there are places where you don't have to keep your dogs on a leash, so knowing the local laws is the best way to know whether you should do it or not. Fire safety, don't set fires unless you know for sure how to do it safely and where to do it safely. Don't write on trees or rocks. Don't create those rock piles, because even though for whatever reason that's a really popular thing to do these days, it does affect the environment pretty severely. So just don't do it. Make sure you hike in a straight line if you're in a group. Don't listen to music out loud. Don't be excessively loud if you're talking to your group. Don't leave trash on the trails. Don't stomp on the wildlife. Uphill hikers have the right of way. And just generally be considerate of other people who are on the trails, other people who want to enjoy nature as much as you do. And also yourself. You could find yourself in a situation where things are closed to you just because of the number of people who are being inconsiderate and being pollutive. That's not a word, but who are polluting the environment. And I think the moral of the story is learn the rules before you go. Take just a few minutes to read up some information on the places where you're hiking or camping, especially if you plan on doing things like backpacking, taking your dog, or camping with fire. Knowing the rules and restrictions will keep you safer, preserve the environment, and prevent you from any potential headaches once you're actually there. The list of etiquette points I've mentioned in this video is by no means exhaustive, but it should be enough to get you started and make you feel comfortable going out there. Do you have a quick tip that I missed? Let me know down below. If you like this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss any of my Thursday videos that come out every week. I hope you have an adventurous day today. Do something that brings you joy, whether it's inside or outside, and I'll see you next week. Bye!